Reading through the ages. Reading is a skill that we have been practicing for at least 5,000 years. And in today's world of digital information, it is one that we need more than ever. Technological advances in communication mean we are dealing with more written material than ever before. But what we read has changed dramatically over the centuries. One of the earliest known works of literature is the Epic of Gilgamesh, engraved in a stone by the Sumerians from southern Iraq nearly 5,000 years ago. The work is an epic poem, which deals with the themes of heroism, friendship, and the quest for eternal life. Public poetry recitals were popular events at the time, and it's not surprising that the first written texts, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, were versions of the poem that could be heard in squares and theatres. In fact, the Iliad and the Odyssey by the Greek poet Homer are full of repeated phrases that had enabled the poets to memorize such long poems. However, as the poets quickly discovered, because the written word decoded everything, such devices became unnecessary. So they soon started experimenting with written language. Many of the forms of literature that we recognize today were developed by the Greeks. Plato's writing made philosophy available to the reading public, and Aristotle wrote Poetics, a work of literary criticism that is still studied by screenwriters in Hollywood today. In fact, the Greeks produced so many styles and forms of literature that the Romans limited themselves to copying them and spreading the Greeks' ideas across the Roman Empire. With the fall of Rome, Europe degenerated into the Dark Ages, a period of cultural stagnation, while the Islamic Empire flourished. Under the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, the Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom was set up. The House of Wisdom was a kind of university and library that helped turn the empire's new capital, Baghdad, into the most important cultural center in the world. Arab scholars built on the knowledge they had accumulated to start their own investigations and make their own discoveries. They also collected, preserved, and translated all the Greek texts they could, and despite the destructions caused by wars and natural disasters, we still have many of these texts thanks to the House of Wisdom and other Arab centers of learning. As the Islamic Golden Age faded, culture in Europe underwent a revival. It was the time of the Renaissance. There was a renewed interest in the works of the Greeks and the development of new forms of writing, such as the essay. However, literature was still mainly in the hands of the aristocracy and upper classes, the only social groups that were literate and had the time to read and write. Poetry became a popular pastime for the wealthy, but all this was to dramatically change thanks to an invention of great importance, the printing press. In 1455, the printing press was presented in the world by Johann Gutenberg. It had an immediate impact. The cost of publishing books dropped dramatically and book prices therefore fell. Literature was no longer only available to a privileged few, and the fact that more people had access to books also influenced what writers wrote about. Collections of popular legends and folk tales were published, and texts written in prose started to appear in print. It was the beginning of a revolution that was to make reading an essential skill for everybody.